the hell is going on in the Trump trial? It's buzzing everywhere that Michael Cohen is all of a sudden catching more felonies. What's going on?
Yes, so Michael Cohen. So obviously last week we talked a little bit about this, about how we got Stormy Daniels was in the courtroom, porn star, and she obviously did an awful job, basically being proven to be a liar in multiple ways. And then now you have Michael Cohen, who has been incredibly biased, been also shown to be a liar. But not only has he been shown to be a liar, he also has admitted on the stand to committing crimes that some would say are even worse than the crimes that Trump is on trial for. So today, Michael Cohen was still on the stand, which I got to tell everybody too. If it feels like it's been a while that Michael Cohen has been testifying, it's because it has been. Michael Cohen is considered to be the star witness in this case. This case is very high profile. His testimony is kind of if we have an objective jury, his testimony is really what this case should be hinging on. And so they kind of needed him to be reliable and smart. But of course, it's Michael Cohen. You're not going to get either of those things. But direct quotes from him on the stand today. He said, quote, "That's what was owed, and I didn't feel Mr. Trump deserved the difference. I stole $60,000 from my boss on the transaction at the heart of this case."
Wow.
So
what the heck?
Essentially, a CNN host even came out and said that this was considered to be, and so he's a CNN, not host, a legal analyst. Because while I'm going to law school, I'm not yet considered a legal analyst unless you want to. I could self-describe myself as one, but he claimed so even a CNN legal analyst came out and said that this is basically larceny, and said, quote, that this is a more serious crime than what Trump is accused of doing. Seriously. So this is so basically what Cohen, if you're still confused, Cohen admitted to stealing anywhere from $30,000 to $60,000 from what he was supposed to pay Stormy Daniels for. So there's the whole claim about that he was supposed to be giving Stormy Daniels hush money. The hush money payment argument is flimsy, as there's claims from the Trump people that it had more to do with it wasn't as much hush money.
Cohen confirms.
Yeah, we can watch. Let's watch this. We'll get this going.
Cash. Trump's attorney, Bland, says, "You stole from the Trump organization." Cohen says, "Yes, sir." He also confirms lying to Alan Weisselberg. I don't know how many that is on the list, but that's another prevarication. And Cohen says he never pleaded guilty to larceny. On they go. Blanche presses Cohen. "You did steal from the Trump organization based upon the expected reimbursement of Red Finch." And he says, "Yes, sir." So that's Finch. And Cohen confirms that he owed Red Finch 50 grand and never paid the full cash. Trump's attorney, Bland, says, "You stole from the Trump organization." Cohen says, "Yes, sir." He also confirms lying to Alan Weisselberg. I don't know how many that is on the list, but that's another prevarication. And Cohen says he never pleaded guilty to larceny. On they go. Blanche presses Cohen. "You did steal from the Trump organization based upon the expected reimbursement of Red Finch." And he says, "Yes, sir." So that's Finch.
So let me add some context to this, what this actually looked like. So Trump or Cohen comes to Trump and says, "Hey, listen, we owe $20,000 or we need to hush somebody up for $20,000. Michael Cohen then puts it in a brown bag, gives $20,000 in cash to Stormy Daniels, let's say, turns around and goes to Trump and says, "Hey, you owe me $50,000 because I gave her $50,000. That's a felony. So my friend, keep racking these felonies up, you and your friend Michael Avenatti, Stormy Daniels, because if you forgot, Stormy Daniels is actually still the loser in this case because she owes $300,000 in lawyer fees to Trump, which is the funniest thing about it at all. I know, right? It's like, listen, you slept with her, allegedly, and now she owes you, buddy, after you sent somebody to her. It's just hilarious,
the
guys.
First time a hooker has ever had to give a refund. That's all I'll say.
Oh my God. And it's she was 100%. She was like, "No refund," right? But hey, listen,
this is first world problem. This is a bunch of well, in the case of Michael Cohen, the guy, and I want to call him the imaginary hot dog eater because he's on TikTok trying to make tips. He's trying to make coins on TikTok by eating these imaginary hot dogs and wearing these gimmick shirts with Donald Trump behind bars. And he thinks he's a 12-year-old on TikTok. He's literally a TikToker. This is how he's making his money. Maybe he's paying his legal bills that way. Maybe they're laundering money that way, just giving him a bunch of coins. Who knows? Regardless, I don't know if he has a lawyer. I would assume so. And I would assume the lawyer would probably not say, hey, maybe don't incriminate yourself when you go on the stand. I mean, just maybe, right? Kevin, I know you're not a legal analyst. You're self-proclaimed. But I think you would probably tell your client, hey, you probably don't want to do that on camera, right?
Well, and this is exactly, you're absolutely right. You would want to, well, because I don't think he isn't technically the client. He is a witness, but that's also important because he's supposed to be like the star witness. He is supposed to be the person, because this is a criminal trial. And so the client, I don't know the exact title of the case, but I assume it's probably like City or State of New York versus Donald J. Trump et al. Because it probably includes Trump Organization and
they're going after all the money.
Yeah.
Campaign.
And so when you're doing that, you want to keep your witnesses in check because you want them to come across as if, so the jury is being instructed. I mean, assuming Merchant is in any way even halfway decent of a judge, which I know a lot of people are hating on him and everything. And there are definitely reasons to hate on him. I don't know what's going on in the courtroom though. He should be saying things like to the jury every single day, you need to think about, or you need to analyze this objectively. Don't let your political opinions get in the way. Consider all facts of the evidence. You shouldn't be doing outside research. You shouldn't be talking about the case with anybody. That's what he should be saying to the jury. And the thing is you're not actually policing that. All of these jurors are definitely going onto social media. They're definitely seeing all this stuff.
100%.
And as a prosecutor, you would want your witnesses to come off as unbiased as possible because the jury is supposed to be unbiased in their decision making. And so assuming that they're actually going to do that, assuming that they're going to sit in a room and say, okay, let's actually look at the evidence. Let's actually consider these things. Anything that is in their mind about a witness that is a preconceived prejudice against the defendant is just bad juju. It doesn't look good.
Well, and you know, what I'm thinking is these jurors, when they go back, maybe they didn't catch the fact that he admitted to doing this. Maybe so many things happened. I mean, there's a possibility that a juror who doesn't understand law, it's just hears that and I'm like, oh, okay, he stole 50. But then they go on social media, Twitter or X, sorry. Maybe they're watching the show right now. You never know. And they're like, oh, that's really bad. So if they're watching that, they definitely are getting additional information that they're not getting from the courtroom because they have additional people speaking about it. And I mean, this is bad for him. So I don't know how.
I think what needs to happen, because I'm just thinking from, again, I am on Trump's side on this one, but I'm thinking of how the prosecutors actually make a case at this point about what they need to do is during closing, because while this is a really, really bad look, it doesn't negate necessarily the claims against Trump. Just because Cohen is a shitbag, essentially, doesn't necessarily mean Trump didn't commit fraud from the juror perspective. You know what I mean? Is like, even if they can understand how bad this is, it doesn't mean that Trump is innocent.
But it also takes all the word from him and cast out. Oh, Cohen.
That's a good point. That's a good point.
It makes Cohen's testimony look bad. Absolutely. It discredits him as a witness in a lot of ways, but it doesn't necessarily mean that's what I'm saying is what the prosecution needs to say is Cohen's a bad guy. Like, this is what, if I was prosecution, which I wouldn't be, but if I was, and I was in front of the jury during closing arguments, I would say, I'm not going to get up here. Michael Cohen is not on trial. I'm not going to claim Michael Cohen's a good guy, but the facts are the case. The facts are the facts. That's what you try to say. That's what you try to say as prosecution is he's not a good guy, but no one in this case is a good guy, especially not Trump. That's what I would say as the prosecution.
Well, it all comes down to whether this, thing that happened, this exchange and whatnot, actually does legally fall under what is called legal services, because that is the whole argument at the end of the day, is whether Trump paid for this using campaign funds or through the campaign, and whether it actually falls under what is legally known as legal services. So we'll see what happens from that. But we do have another clip that I think I really do want to play, because we're talking about the star witness of everything, and or this being the star witness, Michael Cohen, just essentially catching more felonies while he's testifying. At the end of the day, it feels like they just honestly just don't have a direct link between what is happening overall in this case. Let's play this quick little clip.
This is significant because they appear to have caught Cohen in another lie, and this would be a lie to the other person who is allegedly part of this conspiracy, Alan Weisselberg, who prosecutors have chosen not to call because they believe that he would not testify, that he would plead the fifth. The judge has urged them to bring him in anyway. They have not done that. So Blanche, once again, now focusing on the retainer agreement.
What this also does is it puts the onus on Michael Cohen. It was Michael Cohen who arranged this scheme, the repayment scheme. If he's the one fudging to Alan Weisselberg and lying about this and twisting that, it puts more of it on him than either Weisselberg or certainly on Donald Trump.
And so far, there is no direct link proven beyond a reasonable doubt to the defendant in this alleged conspiracy. There is a lot of evidence that has been presented. There's testimony from Michael Cohen. There's testimony from others about conversations. But that is the goal of the defense team. And this right here, this line of questioning, so far, they have established that Cohen may have lied in order to get some of this money.
But the prosecution's going to get up and talk about this. And what Michael Cohen...
Correct.
Yeah, no direct link, fellas. It's CNN saying it itself. No direct link. And as much as the prosecutors are trying to draw up some conspiracy between all of this, it's a lot of he, she, say, blah, 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 and all this, and a bunch of stealing money at the end of the day. So I don't know.
All this, yeah. You know, as we've said many times, these indictments, these cases, whatever you want to call them, they are a red herring to take your mind off the fact that we have a completely open border right now. We have sky-high inflation. We have a president who doesn't know what day it is, who thinks that he was a vice president during the pandemic and that Obama told him to go to Detroit and fix it. Literally happened today. It's all done to take your attention away from the true problems happening and say, hey, look at this one little thing that these people did at one time. Let's focus on that, and let's put all the news organizations on that. But hey, don't look at the border. Hey, don't look at your bank account. Don't look at your credit cards. Don't look at your health. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, I got to be honest. I was trying to find it right here because I saw it earlier today. It was one of those political poll bots online posted a thing. Actually, I think I just found it. I found some of them. Let me see if I can find the exact one about this one in New York. But there was there's been polls from one of those poll bots that show about whether or not if Trump is convicted by a jury of his peers. Let's try to pull this up on screen real quick if we can. I'm going to put it in the chat if this is okay to bring up real quick. If Trump is convicted by a jury of crimes related to his handling of classified presidential documents, who would you vote for president? Trump is still found to beat Biden.
Wow.
So
that was a big one.
This isn't necessarily the fraud trial in New York, but it's a poll that shows that if he were literally found guilty of a crime, if he were found guilty, he still wins 52-48.
Incredible. This is actually very incredible to see because just a few months ago, and especially in the primary season, this was one of the biggest things that was hanging over the Trump and the Trump camp and whatnot, because you had one poll after another come out and say, you know, I want Trump, and then it would decrease by 30 to 40% when they would place a hypothetical of whether he was convicted of any of the trials that he was going through. So this is actually really incredible to see. And I would actually add on top of this, boys, we do like once a week update on polls, and we've seen everything go. This is how bad Biden really is at the end of the day, that even 6 months ago, people were feeling a different way, but now everything is blowing up. Everything that they said that Trump would do is actually happening by the Democrats, manufactured by the Democrats. This is incredible to see. I'm so glad we saw that right there, Kev.
Well, think about this. You're a Democratic strategist, and you're like, hey, guys, nothing is working. We tried to take them off the ballots in Colorado and a bunch of other states. We did this, we did that. Everything is falling one by one. What's next? I still think that the last grasp or the last thing that they can try to do is at the Democratic convention, have Biden say, hey, I'm not well. Something's going on with me. I got to check that out, or I have to get it checked out. Obviously, yellow bus Kamala Harris is going to step up to the plate. And then at the convention, there's some kind of disarray, and then the electors vote to put someone else up. I think that's the last thing you do, because this is, if nothing changes, Biden is going to lose bigly, to use a Trump terminology.
I love that.
They have to do something. So what is that something? What is that nuclear option? I don't know.
It's a 1963 style DNC, if I have the right year, but they did the same thing. The Vietnam War was blowing up in the Democrats' face. So
I'll tell
DNC.
you, that's the crazy thing that you say that. And I'm sorry for interrupting, but I went last weekend for Mother's Day. So not this past weekend, the one that was right before. My mom was taking on a beautiful vacation by my sister that I can't afford. So I went and visited with my dad. I went and visited my grandmother. And we were talking. She knows nobody in my family has ever really been involved super very much in law or politics. But my grandma knows I am. And so we started talking about this a little bit, and she was like, man, this just like, we started talking about the encampments on college campuses. And she was like, wow, this like really reminds me of Vietnam. And like that whole time where she was like starting, like my dad was a young kid and she was his mom. And like, they were a young family. And she was telling me, yeah, like I remember like hearing about all these different things going on college campuses of people protesting the Vietnam War. And that we had the DNC in Chicago, and that caused issues. And she's in Peoria, Illinois, so not too far. I mean, a few hours south of Chicago. And it was really interesting to hear her perspective on all this, because then she even said something to the effect, she goes, you know, the only difference is that back then it felt like those kids were fighting for America and for Americans.
That's exactly what I was going to say. Back then they were fighting because America was out killing communists. Now they want America to not fight and let the communists in because they are the communists. It's completely flipped. And these kids, I'm sure they feel nostalgic. They feel like, hey, last time this happened was in the 60s and we're fighting the man, we're fighting the battle. They're being used by an old sap looking snail and George Soros and his I don't want to say the word because I know we're on YouTube and a bunch of stuff, but his not so manly son, Alex Soros. I want to say the word so bad, but regardless, they're being duped by them, and you know, just the entire physical nature of people in the 60s, the people that were protesting, are very different than the soft soy boy spaghetti arm mafia that's protesting now.
Well, it's two completely different movements at the end of the day, right? We have in the 60s a legitimate anti-war movement, and you can't classify what you see on the encampments, them chanting Intifada revolution. You can't qualify that into anti-war movement. They're doing the opposite. They're actually wanting more war. They chant ceasefire barely now, and they know that they actually don't want any ceasefire. So it's two different complete movements.
Yeah, ceasefire would kind of kill their whole vibe.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like, all right,
Quite
that's
literally.
what you wanted, you got it. All right, now go home. But they can't because they started already. So they need to keep finding something to protest after that. What's next? Who knows?
They do.
Absolutely.
And speaking of what's next, let's take a quick commercial break. But before we go to that commercial break, I just want to say there's a lot of censored news that we can't put out into the sphere at all, especially Instagram. We can probably put it out on Twitter and whatnot, but nonetheless, join our Telegram group. It's an exclusive group where you can get our fantastic news right away. As you can see, it's popped up right there. You can screenshot it so you can save it for later, or you can just type in right now, t.me/breakaway. Join in. It's a lot of fun. A lot of people are in there. We're always chopping it up, throwing different things in there and whatnot. And you're the first one to get the stuff that we then later on try to put in different places. So, and with that, don't go anywhere because we're going to be talking Australian, how Australia passed a digital ID law. And just for the algorithm, maybe Caitlin Clark as well.
I have a lot of choice words to say about Australia. So stay tuned, everybody. This will be fun.
This will be fun.